and gentlemen, it's the Stephanie Miller Show.
I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, I'm walking on sunshine. Whoa, and it's time to feel good. Hey, all right now, it's time to feel good.
You're making poor Sean work his ass off.
He's slaving over a hot printer over there.
I know.
It is the Stephanie Miller
Oh, here
Show.
comes more.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to it.
Sean has a job to do.
6 minutes after
He's
the
there
hour.
to make you look pretty.
Well, that's too big a job for one man. Thank you. 1-800-STEPH-12, the phone number, toll free from anywhere. Maxim Mookage Mondays, Jim Ward, star of the wildly popular Happy Hour podcast, will be in hour number 3 live. Speaking of which, what can you say? Sue tweeted, I believe I saw Amy Goodman gasp and slowly reach for a tall one with her head in her hands during the last 2 minutes of SM Show Happy Hour.
Yeah.
Hashtag, oh dear.
What went on in the last 2 minutes of the happy hour?
I don't recall.
I don't recall either.
Yes, it must have been that. Because we were
Drunk.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Okay, because we started with Circus. You know.
Sure.
Okay, so who can remember? Who can remember? I'll have to purchase the podcast. It's StephanieMiller.com.
Uh-huh.
All right, Monday, my favorite time because, Eric Bollard from Media Matters for America doing the Lord's work as usual.
Eric Bollard.
Come on, baby.
Eric Bollard.
Let's dive into the right-wing world. I don't know what that means. Eric Bollard from Media Matters, whom we love. Speaking of who I've been seeing his pretty face all over the TV as well. Good morning, Eric.
Good morning.
Anytime I watch some new Hillary frenzy, I'm like, I've got to talk to Eric on Monday. I can't take this anymore.
I've witnessed a few.
Yeah.
Well, and you started, I was mentioning to Chris last hour your tweet, and when the New York Times public editor tells the reporter his Hillary email piece should have been much clearer, that means there's a problem. Even this original piece by the, and here we go, quote unquote, liberal New York Times, right?
Yeah, right. So that was the piece that blew up Monday night on Twitter, and people on my Twitter feed told me Hillary should get out of the race now.
Yes.
So I left out two key facts, right? It left out the fact that the law that was passed pertaining specifically to government employees, officials using private email was passed in 2014 after Hillary had left office. Left out the fact that John Kerry was the first Secretary of Defense to primarily use private email. And so, why would you... The Times obviously knew both those facts.
Right.
So why do you leave out that context? And it seems to me the answer is quite simple. If you put up high that the law applying to emails was passed after Hillary left office, if you leave out that Secretary of State Kerry is the first one to use government email, that completely deflates the story, right?
Yeah.
So you're not going to get the bounce, you're not going to get the hysteria, you're not going to get the clicks. So the Times had a decision: do we include context or do we purposely omit it? And from my perspective, they clearly chose to omit it. And then they kind of backpedaled the next couple of days. And in fact, the next day they said sort of Clinton defenders point to the fact that the law was passed, or they point to the fact, why is it up to Clinton defenders?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Or just
Put it
people
in
that
the
like
story.
facts.
Yeah,
Right.
and Michael Tomasky had a good piece at Daily Beast last week. He said, "Look, as a reporter, I can tell you, if your story is airtight, you can be as clear as you want to be in your writing. When it's not airtight, that's when you become ambiguous, and that's when you sort of invite reader interpretation." And that's what the Times did. They invited this interpretation that Hillary is this egomaniac who only would use private email, unlike everyone else. That was certainly the impression, and that she was breaking the law, even though she couldn't have done breaking the law. There were certainly regulations that are open to debate and things like that.
Right.
So for people who've been doing this forever, that's what they did for Whitewater for 5 years. Purposely ambiguous, purposely sloppy, inviting interpretation. You team up with Republican committees on the Hill, and you sort of play this game.
And you quoted Juan Cat. The media and politicos and Twitterati immediately responded with all the measured, cautious skepticism we've come to expect in response to any implication of a Clinton scandal. That is to say, none.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Also, for people who've been doing this a while. I mean, I'm seriously concerned about scandal inflation, right? We're talking about, I sound like Allen Iverson. We're talking about an email account here. So, if you go back to the Clinton years, there was actual scandals when Bill Clinton was president, meaning, papers and investigations. I mean, when I was watching my Twitter feed on that Monday night, and it was just like pure insanity. I was thinking, what if Twitter existed the night they found Vince Foster's billing records in the Clinton White House?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think writers at the Washington Post and New York Times would have drafted the impeachment articles themselves. I mean, they wouldn't have even waited for the Republicans to do it. I mean, that and what happened with the billing record scandal? In the end, it was nothing. I mean, in the end, it was $40 million. But today, we're talking about archiving protocol. We're talking about which email account she used, and that is going to drive her to race.
Wait, but you make it.
I love the SNL skit over the weekend. I really did. I thought McKinnon is brilliant.
Yep.
And this idea that
Hillary
Clinton or Bill Clinton is going to let an email account sort of drive them from national politics is just like beyond laughable. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and no, it was funny. But you make a good point here. You say Clinton scrutiny is so often wrapped in an almost high school brand of social contempt, and it seems to me by some on the left as well.
Well, here we go. So here's the bigger picture, and I'm dating myself this whole interview. I don't mind. We go back to the 2000 race, right? Al Gore, and we had a lot of liberal writers, a lot of columnists, early days of blogging. They were too cool for Al Gore, right? Al Gore's a phony. Al Gore's too political. Al Gore. We don't like Al Gore. We think he's kind of a dope. And so there was this sort of standoffishness and a complete refusal to defend Al Gore from the onslaught of Republican attacks. And so a lot of the liberal opinion makers still, and I'm talking like the Washington Post people and things like that, still angry at Clinton, still resentful. So they sort of took a hands off with Gore, and they didn't defend him, and they made fun of him a lot. And the result was a $3 trillion war that bankrupted this country. And so I'm not saying people have to defend Hillary if they don't want to, whatever. But people should realize what happens when one side decides they're sort of above this all. They're above the fray. Mm-hmm. We don't really like her. She seems kind of ambitious, et cetera, et cetera. And if
nothing sexist about that, right?
No, nothing sexist about that. And so if you want to take a hands off and say, "Oh, she's on her own," people can do that. But there are consequences, as we found from 2000.
Interesting, you write, despite the media pylon, most Americans seem unaware they're supposed to think Clinton is sneaky and unprincipled. ABC Washington Post poll last year found 60% of people think Clinton is honest and trustworthy. But the more important point that you always make, you say it's impossible for me to picture commentators getting this wildly excited and visibly angry over a revelation that Jeb Bush, for instance, used a personal email account while conducting government business and owned his email service. And as you say, he did exactly that. And he selectively released emails and nothing, right?
Yeah. So there's this huge disconnect between how the D.C. press sees the Clintons and how the rest of America sees the Clintons, and certainly how Democratic voters see the Clintons. A week before this story broke, Iowa, where supposedly Hillary has a problem. I've read that article 5 times in the last year. She has an Iowa problem. There was a poll in Iowa. Democratic voters, she has a 90% favorable rating. How do you have a 90% favorable rating among Democratic voters in the Midwest when the D.C. press tells you after the story breaks that this reminds us of everything we don't like about Hillary? Again, she's ambitious, she's calculating, she's secretive, she's arrogant. None of this has translated in 20 years in the public eye. None of this has translated into the masses. If you look at all the people who want to be president of the United States, she is the only one with a plus favorable opinion rating, and she has been fighting in the public sphere for 20 years.
Yeah, and as you say, you quote Dana Milbank on circa her 2008 campaign, the press will savage her no matter what.
Yes.
And, and it's interesting, goes to your point about Jeb, in the, two kinds of treatment. You tweeted, brutal, charter school hailed by Jeb Bush ended in ruin. Mm-hmm. And, yet he's still hailed as this, front-running, like, oh, he did all these great things in Florida kind of guy, right?
Yeah, and again, we're seeing a repeat from 2000, right? Al Gore was phony and calculating. Hillary Clinton is phony and calculating. W. Bush is authentic and centrist. Jeb Bush is authentic and centrist. So these are sort of the narratives that are being built. There was simmering resentment of Al Gore because of Bill Clinton. There's simmering resentment of Hillary Clinton for years, and so they're just going to play out this sort of weird psychoanalysis. And I was tweeting this morning. There was a McClatchy poll from late last week. Most of us completed after the email story broke, and still a huge lead with Democratic voters, still easily beating every Republican challenger. Now, this poll came out on Friday, and it was not mentioned on a single one of the Sunday shows.
Wow.
Fine probably spent 2 hours talking about Hillary's email. And another quick point. What happened last week? We had the Obamacare case at the Supreme Court. We had the Ferguson ruling. We had Netanyahu speak. We had 300,000 new jobs. And we had the email story.
Yeah.
Only in D.C. would an email account not only trump those stories, they would trump all those stories combined in terms if you watch the Sunday news shows.
And by the way, speaking of your other tweet, I love the puffy Rick Perry coverage. Name one Dem who could mount a campaign while under indictment, and the press would politely ignore legal woes. Yes, he's actually currently under indictment, and Hillary's email server is a bigger story.
Texas judge after Texas judge says, this is going forward. I don't know what case you're reading. And there he is, and he's out on the stump, and no one says boo. You imagine if Hillary Clinton were under indictment right now?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It is to laugh. I didn't turn on Al Gore till he sold Current, and I lost my cushy TV job, so I want to go on record.
Yeah.
And again, just to clarify, I'm not saying, if Hillary's in trouble, everyone has to rush, and if she does something wrong, everyone has to defend her. I'm not. But I'm definitely seeing a return of this above-it-all fray. Mm-hmm. Look, we have a conservative media that will do anything in its power to get people elected on the right. We have sort of a, quote, liberal media, which just prefers to be above the fray.
Yeah, yeah. No, trust me, I went from being
doesn't want to call out double standards and things like that.
Yeah, I went from being called a Hillary-bashing Obama apologist, and now I'm a Hillary apologist, apparently. Oh well,
and it's supposed to be the ultimate insult in the media circles today.
Yeah, exactly. Eric, great stuff as always. See you next week.
Okay, bye.
All right, bye. All right, 19 minutes after the hour, he makes me feel better.
Oh, does he give you the fuzzies?
Mm-hmm. 19 minutes after the hour, this portion of the step. Hello, Free Speech TV land. It is fun drive time. That's right.
Yeah.
Look at all our premiums just scattered about us in the studio here. Look at that. That is a Free Speech TV travel mug. If you give only a $60 tax-deductible donation, you get that bad boy right there. Look at Travis cuddling it. $120 donation, you get the Sthephina Miller Show barbecue apron, which is fabulous.
So cool.
Right?
It's like a Swiss Army apron. It's got lots of little gewgaws in it.
Exactly. Oh, look there's a beer opener there, bottle opener.
Yep.
Place for your beer. There is a pot holder in that sucker.
In that bad boy?
Yeah, check it out. $240 tax-deductible donation. You get the apron and the Free Speech TV T-shirt, which is lovingly clothing my ass here. $360 tax-deductible donation, you get the apron, the T-shirt, and the travel mug. For that $1,000 tax-deductible donation, you get lunch with Mama and the Mooks. The next one is coming up April 17th, and that is F-U-N, fun, everybody.
I have so much fun.
Important day of the year.
And we drink a lot, and I get to eat.
Yeah, exactly. All you have to do is call 877-378-8669 or go right to freespeech.org to support your network. It's time to stand with your network.
Yep. It's
no
not
corporate influence of any kind.
Nope, none at all. So we can say whatever we want.
I censored my own ass with a Free Speech TV T-shirt. They did not do that.
I can say all those words you yell at me for saying all the time now.
Yeah, listen. I was talking about I had to follow Tom Hartman at the Blue State Ball. Just a barrage of jokes and fart jokes and flashing his flag thong. Which
what? He's patriotic.
He apparently does every day on Free Speech TV because there's no one telling him he can't. And that's the beauty. That is the beauty of Free Speech TV. Please stand with us now. Won't you? freespeech.org. Mama says do it.
The larger conversation we should be having, and if you want to use Hillary Clinton as a way into the conversation, media, I'm fine with it.